Welcome to the first iGaming Exchange virtual meetup. This is not our first rodeo. We've been doing these type of virtual meetups for 4 years now, actually leading the way. But we just now switched from the quarterly meetups from European Gaming and Gaming Americas to this new format, which is much more awesome and much more easier to connect to. Of course, I would like to take a moment and wish you all a happy Lunar New Year. May this year bring you success, prosperity, and of course, exciting new opportunities in the iGaming industry. Because to this day, the Lunar New Year has been celebrated and is centered around removing bad luck and welcoming all that is good and prosperous. So casino players, watch out, it's that time of the year again. Your bad luck has been reset. So like I said, we're excited to introduce you to this new format of virtual meetups, and I see Carlo popping up on the screen as well. So with the iGaming Exchange, we're evolving to deliver even more valuable insights and industry updates on a regular basis, because this is a monthly thing, which is going to be streamed every end of the month on the last Wednesday. It's going to be tricky because in March, the last Wednesday, we're going to be at Prague Gaming and Tech Summit, so we will going to live stream from there. The goal is to create the iGaming community which can connect and exchange ideas. But that's about the intro, because today's session is packed with important discussions. Of course, we are going to talk the latest trends, challenges, opportunities that are shaping the iGaming events, and of course, the industry as a whole. But this is more than just a webinar, guys. This is an open conversation. I already posted some question to the audience, so you can reply in the comments. We will be also mentioning them here. So I encourage you to engage, share your thoughts. Who are watching this recording, make sure to just send us your inputs on the questions. But let's get started on today's discussion, because I have the opportunity and luck, as always, to have somebody who is speaking for the first time. And usually they say that, wow, this is going to be so scary. And I'm going to tell them that, okay, it's going to be very comfortable, but I forgot to mention that I'm going to point this out to the audience so that they know. And so there's no stress there. So I have with me today Sarah Blackburn from GameOn. Sarah, it's nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. When you put the call out for people to contribute, I think I was one of the first to put my hand up, because for anyone that's watching, he's calling me out on the fact that I'm not very confident when it comes to public speaking or taking part in webinars. So I thought, well, I've got to put my money where my mouth is, because I'm telling clients to do it all the time myself. So here we are. But thank you very much for inviting us onto this discussion. It's exciting.
Thank you for taking on this challenge. And of course, welcome to the public speaking sphere. This is your first, and it's probably not going to be the last.
We'll see.
We also have Tereza Melicharkova from Elantil now, not joining us from Swint. Hi, Tereza. Nice to have you here.
Good morning, Zoltan. Good morning, everyone. I thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. I would have never thought that it's Sarah's first public speaking. Sarah, you are such an icon. I think you're going to do amazing, and this is definitely not the last we are doing together, I would hope. Thank you so much for having me. As you said, I joined Elantil earlier this month, so it's amazing to be representing here this amazing startup, which is not your traditional platform. So I hope that I will be able to say a little bit more about the company.
All right. Elantil is like building the Avengers team. They're taking everybody from every company to their startups. So we also have Yoni Sidi from Wiztech. Hi, Yoni. Nice to have you back.
How you doing, mate? You okay?
All good.
I'd like to echo those words that I can't believe Sarah hasn't been roped into any of these, despite saying, Yoni, you have to. Yoni, you have to. So good on you, Sarah. And Sarah is more than an icon in the iGaming industry. So I am honored to be sharing a platform with her.
See, told you this is not your first and last session. John Chyriwsky, I'm always trying to learn how to pronounce your last name, but we got better from John Christmas.
Yeah, it's getting better each time. So I would say 85% now. It's nearly there. So no, it's great to be back and take part in the first of these sessions for 2025. And I think what a juicy topic we got today as well. Fresh off the heels of ice, my feet have just sort of stopped being sore. So yeah, good to unload everything while it's still fresh in the mind.
All right, thank you so much. And we also have Giancarlo Ferrini from Bgaming. Hi, Giancarlo.
Hello, everyone. Now I'm the one who is scared. I'm the one who feels that is their first time. So thank you so much for having us, and this is gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And again, I would like to ask our audience to share in comments that answers to our 3 questions. What are the top priorities when attending iGaming events? What types of events do you find most valuable for your business? And what improvements would you like to see in iGaming events in the future? Before we begin, I would like to say bless you all and get well for all who are sick after ice, because we had been seeing many emails where people just saying that, okay, I cannot attend the podcast because I'm sick after ice. So guys, at our conferences, we've been handing out vitamins, immunity boosters, even drink recovery sachets for our delegates to don't get this type of experience as you guys do usually after large conferences. So my first question is for the whole crowd. It's about ICE Barcelona, because that just wrapped up last week with an impressive attendance. I wasn't there. I cannot comment if it was an impressive attendance, but from what I saw on social media, it was. So guys, what were your key takeaways from the event, and what does this level of participation signal about the current health and future trajectory of the iGaming industry? So Sarah, let's go first with you.
Thank you so much. Well, look, I made my thoughts very clear to anybody that would listen to me, and also to the Clarion guys who are friends, that I thought it was a bold move moving to Barcelona. And I understand they did the research, and but the thing is, with having it in London, it was a legacy event. So it was the event that everybody went to. I think it was my 19th ICE or my 18th ICE this year. So to move it to Barcelona, again, it's a city I'm not particularly fond of for a number of reasons. And so I went in with okay expectations. It was I have to go, I have to see what it's like. We're often being asked to recommend events to clients to put as part of their media schedule. So I have to go and see what it's all about. And I have to say that and I'm glad to say that it exceeded all my expectations. It was fantastic. Look, it's a behemoth of an event. And once you worked out the navigation, which took a day in itself, it was superbly organized. It was, in fact, there's very little that I can criticize about it. And the good thing about ICE being in January, although it doesn't feel like it at the time, because people don't feel like they've actually had a bit of a Christmas break because of all the preparation and the planning. And I don't think I've ever been busier in the 2 weeks leading up to Christmas and 2 weeks post. It is a really great way to kick off the year. And it does come in with that new renewed energy and feeling that it kind of sets the stall for the rest of the year. So it's managed to maintain that flagship global event of a must attend. And so for me, it was great. That's just my thoughts on it.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, Tereza. Yeah, oh man, somebody has left their microphone on.
Okay, I'll take.
It's all right. I wasn't sure whether it. To be honest with you, I was.
Go ahead.
Okay, great. Well, I can't agree more than what Sarah just said, except the fact that I love Barcelona. I was living not far away from there, so it was great coming back to Spain and to familiar city for me. I was very skeptical. I think anyone who knows me would say that I didn't believe that Clarion will manage to keep the momentum of the most important event in the industry. I didn't think that they will continue being the biggest and very well organized, as we are familiar from Excel and from London, and they definitely exceed my expectations. the organization was very smart, very helpful. Everything on the floor worked great. The floor plans were available. Internet worked fantastic, which is probably for the first time when you had more than 10K attendees, where you would be able to actually load your floor plan, fund your meetings. So big well done to the guys behind this event. I think it was great, and I think we will see more of these in Barcelona going ahead.
All right, so probably it was a good way to kickstart those posts on LinkedIn that this is the best conference ever. Until the next one, of course, when SBC puts on Rio, this is the best conference ever, and so on. John, what was your impression?
Well, yeah, I mean, we had a really great conference. We went to SBC in Lisbon earlier this year, and we thought that last year. We thought that was bigger than it's ever been. And at the time, I thought, wow, they're really going to challenge ICE and try and steal the crown as the biggest show. But then you got to ICE, and now it's even bigger. It's like huge. And I'm not sure there's more exhibitors. I think just some of the bigger exhibitors are having bigger and bigger stands. I don't know, like, if that's a trend going to continue. They keep getting bigger. I don't know if they need so many big stands, if it's some sort of like, hey, look, mine's bigger than yours type competition. But I'm sure the event organisers are happy because they're charging per square metre. So they'll be loving all these super stands. And I think, there is talk of expanding it even more in the couple of years ahead. So that's going to be interesting what they do there. Potentially, they could maybe move all the aviator clones into one hole. So you've just got a clone of a hole of Crash Games. There were loads of them there this year. And I think the other trend I saw was sports stars. I know regulators have been trying to sort of disassociate sports stars from the gaming industry, but they were bussing them in. You had Figo, Michael Owen, Magnus Carlsen, Usyk, even Risto Stoichkov was wheeled out. So I think we're going to start talks with the infamous British ski jumper Eddie the Eagle Edwards and see if we can get him onto our stand next year to draw people in. So it's always teething problems, right, when you move to any new event. And I think we did experience that. Some of the internet service, if there was a problem, some of the staff on the ground could be a bit testy and a bit stressed out. And certainly where Fincore had a stand, there was a big supplier built their stand in front of ours really high. In fact, it was so high, it was above the rigging. And, you just couldn't see any stand behind it. So very much against whatever regulations there are, but somehow it's got through. So I think there are things to address, but that's to be expected. But in the whole of it, it was a really good show, and we come out of it, I think, with some good leads.
All right, thank you so much. Yoni?
So this was my 20th ICE. I've been going back since Earl's Court, when I spent most of the time playing Sega games upstairs, which was the main purpose of my visit. And I wouldn't say skeptical, but I was erring on the side of caution whether the move was the correct one. Not necessarily moving away from London, but choosing Barcelona just with its limited access for flight travel, especially. But also on the back of SBC Lisbon, John, just to echo what you said, I thought that for me was the best show that I'd been to so far in terms of effectiveness and the quality of the leads and the people we met there. I was actually blown away by the show. I take my hats off to Clarion. It seems to me like they have spent years gathering feedback from the people that have been attending the shows and actually implemented that feedback to make things as easy as possible. So yes, it was a gigantic space, and you literally needed, I told my guys, get there an hour and a half, 2 hours early, don't book any meetings, just walk around just to know where you are, because it was, not easy to navigate. And if you're meeting someone in hall 1 and then you have to go to hall 5, you need a good 10, 15 minutes. So I don't think it was that easy to organize yourself if you don't have a stand, if you're walking the floor. But in terms of the show they put on, everything from the actual location, the things to do in Barcelona, the actual quality of the show itself, it was spacious. Yes, it was big, but there was room to move around. There was room to have meetings. There was rooms to sit inside, to sit outside. There was food on tap. I saw the taxi queue was a bit long, which is maybe something they need to try and look at. But we because of Lisbon, we had our own transportation, which was a blessing. But in general, my feedback, and I said this to the guys at Clarion at the time, and also after the event, was absolutely fantastic. Well done. I'm sure they will continue to improve, and I'm sure they will get bigger because, you know, after a show like this, I think everyone, you know, suddenly says, I want to have a stand and I want to be there. But in general, it was, you know, a bold move, but I think one that has paid off both financially and also for the attendees going to the event.
All right, thank you so much. So Giancarlo, as a major slots provider of the industry, what's your take on ICE?
Well, I wanted to say that I'm fairly new in the industry, but my very first event was at ICE. That's where I met the team at Bgaming. And for me, it was already big. And we keep saying that the industry keeps growing and growing and growing. And then you come to ICE in Barcelona, and you can tell that it has grown. Like, it's the biggest event. It felt like an airport, but also it felt as organized as an airport. At the same time, I agree with Yoni, because I think that you needed plenty of time to get yourself organized. Like, if you knew where your next meeting was going to be, it still wasn't easy because you needed to find that hole, and it might be farther away than you thought. And in those regards, but besides that, the organization was fantastic. There were some stands that they looked like a shopping center, and it was very impressive, like visually stunning. The amount of technology and screens and the quality of the design of the stands, it was impressive. It was really, really good. And once you got yourself to know how it was, the floor plan, it was very, very easy to navigate. It was very easy to get to where you needed to be by the third day.
All right. Thank you so much. So, guys, are there any specific trends or announcement at ICE that stood out, particularly significant for shaping the events landscape in 2025? Do you think that other organizers will follow on, maybe some copying some things from ICE, because we know that's a thing? Sarah, what's your take on this?
Well, I will echo what John was saying about Crash Games. And look, we're in a fortunate position as a PR agency that we're seeing the trends as they're happening. So by the time we get to ICE, we're not really surprised by.
Because you're basically making the trends.
exactly. And so, you know, but I would definitely say, you know, some of the biggest topics would be obviously Crash Games and also new market entry in Brazil being really one of the hot topics that people were talking about, and then talking about localized content, cultural understandings of new market entry. So from that perspective, but just going back slightly to talking about ICE and it being the biggest show, but what I would also like to say that some of the more meaningful conversations that I had, because of course at ICE, I'm now planning for the rest of the year for clients with their marketing and PR strategies. And quite a few clients, although love Barcelona and love ICE and will still go to ICE, a lot of them were also thinking about maybe not exhibiting at ICE potentially, but taking meeting rooms, or potentially doing more localized events throughout the year and not just putting all their investment into Barcelona. I mean, not that it would stop them from attending, because it is an amazing place to go and start those conversations or even sign the contracts whatever stage you're at. But big isn't always beautiful, right? The smaller, more niche and geo-targeted events are also really important. And I think the conversations I was having with people last week was along that vein of going, this is wonderful, because also a lot of the companies that we work simply cannot compete with some of the large stands and that investment that's being made into that for one event that potentially they could use that modular stand for maybe Lisbon, which is going to be of a similar size. So the talks and the chat that I was having was really more at what can companies do to have meaningful conversations at smaller events where they're going to have more time with people, where they're not rushing off to Hall 5 because they've just been in Hall 2. And I thought that was really interesting from that perspective.
All right, so I can confirm to you that this is actually happening. Our conferences are now sponsorships for Prague. There are more than 2 months left, are almost sold out. So basically, we have 2 more packages left, and registrations are off the roof. So yeah, definitely there's a need for attending smaller events like ours, of course. So Tereza, what's your take on this?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm really happy that you have a lot of people trying to come and sponsor your events, because I'm a big fan.
Yeah, we're
of your
turning
events.
people down. We're actually turning people down now.
That's a brilliant position to be in. So I'm very happy for you, Zoltan, and for Hipther and European Gaming and everything what you guys do. I agree with Sarah about the localization. Looking into smaller events and sending some of your team is great. From the innovation at ICE, to be completely honest, representing a startup, we just sent the first press release out about starting the company in the beginning of January, which Clarion didn't give us enough time to make sure that we managed to send all the news out we wanted. So running from meeting to meeting, where we as a team were trying to really make sure to spread out the word about Elantil and what we do out. I didn't have much time to see the show, although I was running from one place to another. Having a stand would probably be very helpful, but as Sarah said, it's a huge investment. I think we'll be looking into next year just to have people to come in. But from what I've seen at the conference, I think that we see a lot of innovation in the live casino products. From the Centered Evolution, what they were trying to showcase, the products coming up. I think that's one of the part of the industry. We saw a lot of sports betting stands, which I don't think they had that much presence at ICE in London at Excel. So that was another thing. Bringing celebrities to events like ICE, SBC, and so on is of course huge. Awareness of your brand. John mentioned already. My biggest takeout was probably Magnus Carlsen at Betby stand, the best chess player. That was amazing to see. And the football players like Figa having at the event is always helpful. So that would be my takeout.
All right, John.
Well, yeah, as Tereza just mentioned, there did seem to be quite a few turnkey sportsbook and platform providers that sort of just seemed to have come out of nowhere that were present. So, and the other thing I saw quite a bit of that maybe weren't at ICE last year was sort of AI-based player segmentation and using data. So, obviously the industry's talked about this for a long time. It's something we had at ICE Fincore last year, but this year there were quite a few other providers making propositions in that space as well. So that's a trend. But I mean, to the point of big versus small, like I'm a huge fan of music festivals, and it really resonated with me that when you go to something massive like Glastonbury, you don't get to see everything that you want to see. You sort of takes an hour to get across. You miss half the stuff you were planning. But you go to a nice smaller festival, and it might be just curated around one type of music, but you can relax. You can spend more time speaking to people. And I've found that this year we did some smaller shows this year as well for the first time beyond ICE, and found sometimes the audience was different. There was people that maybe wouldn't go to ICE, so that's very worthwhile seeking out. I think shows that are going to have where there's not a lot of crossover of audience, but also you can be very targeted rather than trying to show all your products. You can maybe go to a smaller conference with just one single thing that you want to interact with people about and be much more focused about it. And for ICE to develop, maybe they need to think about almost how can they create exhibitions within exhibitions, rather than thinking it as one big exhibition. How can you curate individual spaces so you have speakers and content and events about that focus of that exhibition hall, rather than trying to get people to run around? And it's good for the step count, but that's how they might improve it.
All right, Yoni.
So from my perspective, I actually thought there'd be much more in and around the AI space. And I think a lot of the companies that I actually bumped into or did meet there, they didn't have a stand. And you had to kind of find them in the crowd of madness, or had to arrange meetings prior, and then hopefully you get to meet them, and hopefully you're in the same vicinity where they are, so it's not too far to walk. But I thought, I still believe that this is really going to be the year of AI in iGaming. And when I actually met those companies, they're small boutique. They never even thought of having a stand, but the tools there are really, really good. So I imagine that over time, they will become a bit more prominent. I think going back to what was said before by the panel, it's not easy to get a stand. We're a small to medium-sized company with 100 plus employees, but for me to think of investing 45 to 50,000 euros on a show when there are dozens of these shows over a year, you do have to pick and choose which ones you want to be on. And ICE obviously is gigantic. I think, John, you actually brought up something that I was thinking of, to have little micro events inside the big event, just to make sure that it is a bit more effective. But for me, in general, I thought there'd be more AI stuff going on, with big stands, people showcasing their technology. And yes, there were a lot of new platform providers, new sports books, new white labels. It's very easy to get lost in the crowd. I mean, I don't know where they're coming from and how they're generating business, but they must be there for a reason, because they all had large presence, nice stands, and all seemed to be looking like they were having a good time and doing very, very well. So for me, it was a lack of AI and new development and new tools that were kind of, they weren't on the high street. You had to go and find them in the back streets and the dark alleys, where the big guys were still there, the Evolutions and the Playtechs and all their fancy technology and the crash games. So it was a lot of what we know, but bigger. And I think what we are looking for, we have to learn to find better, or give them a prominent platform that they can come and have a stand and not be worried about spending that money or maybe discounting rates. And I think bringing in new types of innovation and giving them kind of a lower barrier of entry, I think will help the industry as a whole. So we don't just keep doing the same things, because this industry has lacked innovation over the past 20 years, I believe, compared to other industries like finance, e-commerce, or stuff like that. So that would be my main takeaway.
All right, so guys, when researching and writing the questions for this meetup, I did not even look at the numbers at ICE, because I can imagine it's around 30K, because that's what they all are saying. SBC, Sigma, ICE, they're all around 30K. My question is, of course, a side question. You don't need to answer this. Do you think that there are actually 30,000 people there, or are they counting it like the festivals? Like there are 3 days of conference, you have 10,000 people, and then you multiply it by 3. Because we saw some conferences then saying that there are 35,000 people there, but wasn't just like maybe 10,000. So my best guess is they're doing this festival type of numbering the attendees. But this is just a side question, guys. This is not, if you want to answer, it's okay. But let's say, okay, 30,000 attendees. So how can organizers ensure a valuable experience for everyone? Because that's something very hard to do. Balancing, of course, networking opportunities with focused content and avoiding the sense of overwhelming scale, because that's like John pointed it out. It's overwhelming to see that you have like maybe 10 or 15 panel discussions taking place in the same time. So you just like run from one to the other. So Sarah, what's your take on this? You don't need to answer the numbering question. That was just.
I have my thoughts on that as well, Zoltan, to be honest with you. So look, it's a bit like when you put in an award submission. There's a little bit of inflation in percentages and numbers, and I'm sure. And when you're being scanned in and scanned out, and scanned in and scanned out, is that me? Am I counting as 5 people? I don't know. I don't know how they do the figures, but I'm sure they're fairly accurate. However, going back to what we're saying about, let's pick ICE as an example. I think there's a danger where an event can also try to be too many things to everybody. So when I think about ICE, I don't think about conference content, and it never really even dawns on me to even try and pay a ticket to go and get the conference content, because I've only got 2-3 days and I've got 5 halls to get through, clients to see, potential new client leads, press, all the rest of it. So I think there is a danger of trying to accommodate every type of attendee versus we go to Next New York as an example. Huge. We love that show. It's intimate. It's small. I think there's about 1,500 people in attendance, and it's only really conference content. Yes, they have a corridor where there's people that can exhibit and have short meetings, but actually the value from someone attending or even speaking, I would say if you're looking of course, this is market specific, but the US as an example, it's nice to be in that intimate environment where you're actually meeting people that could actually make the decisions that you need them to make, or you are or in a position to sign a contract or whatever it might be. So, but they've picked a lane and they're sticking to it, and I think that's really important. So you have everybody and like SBC and Clarion or whoever it might be saying biggest show. That's great. However, it's good to pick just one area and focus on that well, rather than, like I say, trying to be all things to all people. But I understand that pressure too. You've got people flying in from all over the world, and you want to be as flexible and accommodating. And I'm sure they do this because they're reacting to feedback. But Lisbon's a good example. The conference content within the expo halls, sometimes it kind of fell down a little bit because there was not enough attention on that. And then maybe the people, you go to, then there'd be 3 people sat in the audience because again, it was almost trying to be too much to one thing. But let me say, huge fan of Lisbon. I thought it was an exceptional event too. But yeah, I think there's a danger in that.
All right, no doubt, guys. So don't get me wrong. Hats off to everyone. Hats off to SBC. Hats off to Clarion, to Sigma, because these type of events are not easy to pull off. It's crazy. We had a test event in 2018 in Vienna with a small expo. It was crazy to host. I know we got out of that space because we know that it's not for us. So Tereza, what's your take on this having an overwhelming scale?
So I think it's very difficult to organize everything all together and expect people not to be overwhelmed. You just need to come to the event, try to organize yourself as much as you can before, go to your meetings, go to what you have to see, try to go to what you want to see from the sense of content, and try to network in the afternoons, evenings, and try to wake up early enough to go to sports events. So I think the key is not to try to organize something not to make people overwhelmed, but make people prepared that they are coming to an event which is from 3 to 5 days, and they will be very busy. Just mentally prepare before, try to get enough sleep the week before. Plan your schedule as much as you can. Give yourself time to eat, to move from one place to another. Rest a little bit and just embrace it and go to the event, knowing that you will be exhausted, probably sick, but then you have to evaluate if it's worth it for your business, where your business stands, how much you have to be at that event. You have to be just very smart how you plan for these events, and that's probably the key. So from an organizer's perspective, maybe messaging about these things, rather than trying to sound glamorous about how everything is well prepared, just to maybe make awareness about mental health, exhaustion, what to eat, what to drink, and how to take care of yourself to get through and have a successful event and good experience afterwards.
All right. So since you mentioned sports, I'm happy that we managed to squeeze in a little networking run in Barcelona for our iGaming running club with about 25 people showed up, and shout out to Rob Fell for being there, orchestrating the whole thing. So, John, what's your take on this huge conferences?
Well, I there were lots of people there. As to people that were counted, I don't know, but I observed there were less tourists than in London. Because ICE is free, anyone can go, right? Whereas some of the shows that are paid, it's only industry professionals. But in London, you'd see more people walking around with like every free bag they could get, like and you didn't really see any of that at Barcelona. So, I think there was, everyone was sort of from the industry and focused. I mean, it is huge. So if you're there with the stand and you're working on the stand, it is difficult to get around and see other stuff. Because it can take you so long to get there and back. It's like they've got the planners from IKEA to sort of map out the routes and keep you moving around. But I do think, yes, there's a lot of events, but they all have slight differences and purposes. Some are better for networking. Some are better for learning and understanding. And, I guess you've got to pick the event for what it is you're trying to achieve. So rather than just do an event because you do it every year, what do you actually want to get out of that event? if it's meeting existing clients or closing some deals, then maybe ICE is the right place to have a stand. If it's to network and meet new clients, maybe SBC. If it's to collaborate with regulators, then it might be a smaller, more niche specific thing. So it's really to put some conscious thought into how you're going to allocate your event budget for the year.
All right. So just a short story that one of our attendees at one of our conferences, after 3 days of attending our event, had to go to a psychologist because she actually went into depression after the 3 days because it was over. So that's the type of experience we like sharing.
So from my side, I do believe that there were, close to 30,000 people. It seemed really, really busy again. I wasn't counting. I don't know how they do the counting, but it was definitely busy. And I was in the executive lounge speaking to the girls there, and they were giving me what they perceived to be a very accurate head count to date. So it's along those figures, but that might just be what they were told. I think as someone who's been doing this now for 2 decades, bless you, Gian, and who you missed last time, Hipther, not tell you how to do your job. Someone who's been this 20 years, I think we were much closer back then. I know Sarah from well over 20 years ago, and the same crowd of us that would go to these shows be the same crowd that would also end up doing something in the evening, a social gathering. And I think as the industry has got much bigger, you now have so many events that it's it is impossible to split yourself to try and make everyone happy or try and do everything that you need to do. Now, a lot of the networking events in the evening are, like John said, you have all these footballers. Well, now all these brands are bringing top DJs, and I wouldn't be surprised if you do get an Ed Sheeran or Beyonce coming one show to perform. It's getting to that level where people are going, well, I'm going to go and see a free, Ed Sheeran show, whoever the DJ was that was at the Paris Play party. I don't know. I'm not too up to speed with my DJs, but everyone seemed very excited by it at the time. So I think as the industry grows, I don't see how you can kind of put a net on it and make sure that you can still have that intimate feeling that we had back in Earl's Court 20 years ago, and even ICE a few years ago, where it was just a fire and ice party. Now you've got people doing more than fire and ice parties, which we never thought would be really possible, than having a goat on stage. Suddenly you are getting these top DJs coming to perform, and top celebrities, and it is a case of everyone's trying to show who they are by showing off or whatever. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. It's not really a level playing field for the smaller guys, but we obviously get to enjoy being part of these events. But I don't see how we can control it. It's only going to get bigger, and I think more industries will look at ICE and start saying, the casual games, for example. I saw a lot of casual game operators there. They're now coming in. They're saying, okay, this is fun. So I imagine it would only have to get bigger, because it will gauge more and more interest, not just from the iGaming space, which will then expand globally as more regulated regions become more prominent. But I think also similar industries like Forex, which kind of dabbled in and then dabbled out when regulation came. They kind of got scared. But for sure, casual games, sweepstakes, all these types of things, I think will only mean that events like this will come bigger. And I think it's important to try and find the niche events that you think you can enjoy, not only on the personal level, but also on a professional level.
Oh, all right. So I'll make sure to mention the Go thing to Michael Caselli, because he's coming to Prague, and we are hosting a panel discussion about the iGaming spirit, which is a talk about the past 20 years of the industry. We have some legends attending that session. But yeah, let's talk about this part where you mentioned that some of the companies are looking for like smaller events. It's been like a crazy period. In 2019, I remember it was the same thing. Everybody was looking for smaller events because before that, everybody was running around to the big events. Then the pandemic came. Now everybody's running back to the big events again. Like it was 2023, 2024, but now again they are shifting to going to the smaller events, and there is always that post that comes up from some of the event organizers on social media that there are too many conferences, boo-hoo. But hey, we need more conferences as a growing industry because the industry is accelerating fast and there is need for smaller conferences. And okay, you guys mentioned that some of the clients are looking for smaller events, but are there that many small events out there? Because there's only a handful of organizers out there. So beyond, of course, the sheer size of events like ICE, SBC, Sigma, what other factors are driving change in iGaming, in the iGaming event space? Of course, besides this localized experience, Sarah.
I think people are looking at their budgets and they're seeing how they can make it stretch further. So if you have, I don't know, 50,000 as an example, an average budget for a medium-sized company to spend on events. Well, again, going back to some of the conversations I was having last week, is I think, well, actually, I could spend 50,000 going to 5 or 6 of our key jurisdictions, meeting with regulators one-on-one, taking out 6 or 7 of our partners, our customers, our potential new customers, sharing information in a very closed, safe environment, because again, we talk about not seeing a lot of innovation at ICE, but who is going to show their innovation? No one's really going to go, give. What's that? There's a saying which I probably shouldn't actually say, but no one's going to, peacock their best of what they've got because everyone's nervous about people jumping on the bandwagon and pivoting their businesses quickly to emulate and do better. Although I don't think that really happens very often. So I think a lot of people now are thinking about just not even going to event organizers and actually hosting events themselves, much smaller scale, that one-on-one, and also building those connections and those relationships. And when the pandemic did hit, I probably had half a dozen clients come to us in the January because ICE had been postponed and said, Sarah, you need to put on an event. We've got so much news to share. We've got products to sell. Can you do something? And it's so outside of my wheelhouse. I can only see as a bystander how much work goes into these, and there's no way I could do it. But what it did resonate with me was that people just want somewhere to go and to meet and to share and to network and see what opportunities are out there, And so I think, I think you're only going to have a lot more of those meaningful conversations one-on-one, and actually make that time and effort to go and visit people where they're based, rather than hope and pray that they're going to come to Barcelona or to Lisbon or New York or wherever it is. So I think that's going to be the shift, where it's not going to be so much emphasis on the event organizers. These teams are going to start running their own bespoke events themselves.
All right. So being the organizer who hosted the last in-person conference in 2020 on March 9 in Prague, after that the world got shut down, we actually hosted a conference in the summer of 2020 in full pandemic in Tallinn, a hybrid conference where there were 50 people in a room because that was the maximum allowed space. But yeah, those people were very happy to be there. Like you said, it was like everybody just wanted it, like.
Absolutely. And you go back to those times where, this is where Zoom calls and, I've never looked at myself so much ever, because you're just on camera the whole time. But, there was so much bravado saying, well, we don't need events. Look, we're smashing it. We're still doing well. Yeah. We don't need to be spending hundreds of thousands of pounds at events and conferences. Okay, fast forward 5 years and here we are, and everyone is feeling the pressure to be bigger, bolder. So I'm that, to be as a bystander, has really shocked me as to how quickly we fall back into, well, if we're not there, will we be missed? And if we're not, people think we're going under, but actually with the right PR agency, nobody would think that. But do you know what I mean? It's really shocking to me how quickly we fall back into that same pattern of events and spending that amount of money.
They just don't trust themselves. Just like I just want to ask Tereza about the same thing. As a startup, what is your plan? Are you looking to go to the But by the way, guys, why are you not mentioning Sigma? Because you always talk about ICE and SBC.
There are some maybe reasons, but I think we will touch base on that a little bit later. And as you said, being a startup, it's very difficult to really sit down with the executive team and look throughout the whole year with so many events. the most important is really your strategy, where you want to go, which markets are important for you. And you ask what drives this besides localization. And I think from the global perspective, localization is what drives these events to be successful. And for companies with bigger teams, the industry is maturing and the teams are getting more localized. So you have people with the language knowledge, with the market knowledge, with, and that's probably the ideal idea behind growing the industry and focusing on each market individually. As a startup, you don't have that luxury. So you just have to be really smart about where you are going to be. These big events, as we see, ICE and Sigma, where you have the global scale, it's good to have presence, probably at least to go and try to meet as many people to spread the word about your business. Being a platform provider, for people, it's not that easy to understand what exactly we are doing. And being a niche and very different to other platform providers, you really need to be out there with help of the great PR agency on the media side, letting people know what you are doing, and then being at the events and representing the company. Yeah, ideally you have a team and you focus on localized events, smaller ones, and you meet people. If you don't have that luxury, you just have to be really strategic. And we will be going to New York because, as Sarah mentioned, I haven't been myself, but I heard amazing things about the event. People get really close to each other. The same Ontario. It's one of the events which is probably going to grow, but people like to listen. It's very focused on content, which I believe is really a huge trend for the future because the industry is maturing, and content and education will be very important to really focus on people understanding what everyone is doing, regulations as well. And your event in Prague is definitely one of the ones we would like to go to and focus on that market. So definitely the smaller ones for maybe smaller team, and then go to those two up to 3 major events on a global scale as the whole team to spread the word out.
All right, so the industry is maturing. No more just kids running around the expo floor. Some are actually attending the content. John.
Well, I know that this industry historically has very much been about in-person business, right, and meeting and networking. And something really struck me at ICE when there was a guy came to our stand and said, "Oh, I've been meaning to speak to you guys for quite a while, so I thought I'd come and see you at ICE." And I'm like, "Dude, we've got a phone number." At any point in the last however year, you could just talk to us. But people wait till they're at an event. And, they do that with the big ones, but, with the local ones as well. So I think that's why, it's important to be at some of these events in some capacity, not always to have a stand, because people do like to, for some reason, save up meetings or encounters for the events. I think what I found with some of the smaller ones, if you're thinking about going into a market that you're not a player in necessarily, it's really good to go and learn. You don't learn anything. The best way to learn is from speaking to operators or people from that region, understanding what their pain points are, and they're going to be there. So that's where you can meet them. And then if you are in that market, then maybe you evolve to having a presence there or speaking at that event. I also think the smaller ones are great opportunities for collaboration. Everyone's too busy with meetings at a big one like ICE, but a smaller one, maybe, you've got operators, suppliers, regulators, all in the same room. And I guess it's thinking, how can we use that time together to collaborate? And, actually, sometimes operators are pitched against regulators, but it's all better if everyone can work together. And I think those smaller conferences where it's more content focused, there is an opportunity there for people to do that.
All right. So I'm glad you mentioned this thing that, man, we have a phone number. There are several companies reaching out to us. Are you going to be at ICE? Because we want to buy a banner from you and talk about PR news, PR spend. But man, you're talking to me right now. Just ask me the price. I don't have to go to Barcelona just to have this talk. We can have it any time of the year.
And the crazy thing is that you meet them and then they say, right, let's book an online meeting for next week.
That's why we put up those landing pages with the contact forms, right? So we don't have to travel to a conference. Yoni.
I quite enjoy kind of spreading myself and the team thin. I quite enjoy going around because, like I said, if you're on a stand, you don't get to see a lot of the people that you would like to see. You don't get to see a lot of what the other people want you to see as well. So I've always enjoyed going from place to place, bumping into people, treating it like the market that it is, grabbing people when you see them. Let's discuss this, get stuff done on the spot. Meetings there shouldn't be more than 10, 15 minutes. You don't need the small talk of how your kids are, because I also believe in the importance of relationship, and I try and maintain a relationship with people that I work with for 365 days of the year. So it's not just, when I see your ice, I will pounce on you. Throughout the year, I will engage with you and see how you're doing and have a joke with you and make sure your family's okay and all these types of things. And if I do see your ice and I can help connect you with someone else, that for me is the beauty of ice, is seeing people in the hallways, grabbing them and say, you should speak to this one, even if it's not, beneficial directly for you. That for me is what this industry makes this industry great. The fact that a lot of people that I know are always willing to help each other. And at ICE, for me, the funnest scenarios are always, do you know someone who does PR, for example? And Sarah and her girls will, I believe, testify to this, that, when they walk around with me for a few minutes, I do say, right, you need to speak to them, you need to speak to them, speak to GameOn, speak to GameOn. And that's the thing I enjoy about these types of conventions when they are so large. So to go back to the point before we go on to the next topic, I'm still not there that I want to have a stand and spend a lot of money on the stand. I really enjoy engaging with people, and I enjoy when people come to me and say, Yoni, you need to meet this person. I say, right, I'm here now, let's meet them. Where are they? So that for me is the market aspect of it. Maybe come back to my first ever job, which was working in the markets in London. But I enjoy that. I enjoy the hustle. I enjoy the bustle. And that's why, for me, the face-to-face conventions, are unbeatable. Not, you can't do these things online or digitally. And I enjoy the face-to-face meeting people and trying to close deals or trying to help them in as short a time as possible.
All right. So, Giancarlo, you are going to answer first on my next question, because there has been in the past few years some cross-industry events like ours, of course, where the iGaming intersects with sectors like fintech, blockchain, AI, entertainment, sports, etc. So how do these hybrid events benefit the iGaming industry, and what are the potential challenges you might point out?
I think that the industry is evolving and is progressing a lot, and is progressing very fast. So the competition is really hard. And I'm talking about kind of like the challenges of the industry. But to answer your question, what can I say? Let me 1 second. Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah, of course. I'm interested about how these hybrid events, where you have all the more than one sector.
Sorry. Yeah, I think that it is interesting how the industry is growing and is going some other places. And like, if you are particularly an operator that is well known within the industry, it's not necessarily that you are famous outside the industry. So I think that this type of conventions that you make with other sides of the business or other industries can only help you grow your brands, grow awareness. I mean, the fact that it is a big industry and that it is a very exciting industry doesn't mean that everyone plays, that everyone can be a player. So, for example, I think that Sarah, she does PR for iGaming, but also maybe for a particular product, she might do PR in another industry. I guess that you wouldn't be scared of doing that. So I think that this cross hybrid industry gatherings might help you with that.
All right. So without being like the bragging person here, when we were hosting separate conferences, tech conferences, which were dedicated only for blockchain, AI, nothing related to iGaming, and the iGaming conferences separately, it was a different thing. But when we started bringing together all these peoples under one roof, it was magic. We saw like we had Interpol, Europol, cybercrime people coming and seeing what the actual thing is about the iGaming industry, and the other way around. And also with the AI, professors and lecturers were coming to the conference, and people from the iGaming industry were like, "Wow, we are providing iGaming AI." Services, but don't know what this guy was talking about. So that it was something like for them a revelation to have access to fintech, not having those payments guy processors coming up to you, hey, you want a payment processor, rather than having actually somebody from a bank, like a central bank, coming to a conference and explaining how things work. So Sarah, what's your take on this?
So my thoughts are that I think it's really important getting the right people to those events. As an example, ICE is great, flagship. Your sea levels are going, and people, Yoni, I'm so sorry. People as old as time as me and Yoni have been doing this for years and years and years. But actually, if you're looking at AI, if you're looking at fintech, we should be maybe having conversations with our businesses that we're working with from our side, particularly from PR, is like maybe invest in sending somebody more junior, maybe invest in the people that actually can start putting those plans together, who actually really understand the tech. I was talking to somebody yesterday who just got a degree in AI. I'm like, that's never a thing when I was at university. If I'd gone to or somebody who's done a dissertation in social media and social sciences and all those things. The younger people that just maybe not get the opportunity to go to these events because it's only really ever the decision makers and the C-level. But actually, are they the people that really then have much to do with the actual building out strategies for the business? And are they the right people too? I mean, of course, they ultimately make the decision, but I think maybe there should be more investment made in people that are more junior, that will really understand these emerging technologies. They will maybe not just see gaming as a vertical, which I'm probably quite stuck in, although we do work with one finance company, but we are very much iGaming, and we put ourselves in that niche, which is wonderful. But I do think having fresh eyes, fresh blood, creating those conferences where these people can go to who are not maybe a little bit jaded or aren't blinkered because they've just been in this vertical forever, that they can bring that energy in and would really respond to that type of content. That's where I would see it for sure. But I think it's a great idea. But again, if you're going to be creating these cross vertical events, again, it becomes almost like too much for one event to host, and then you're kind of then thinking, well, actually I'm in gaming, so maybe we should just stick to the gaming sector rather than go and look at any other vertical. So good idea, but maybe it shouldn't be us that go. It should be the people that are coming in new to our industry to explore those other verticals.
All right. So Tereza, what's your take on this as a startup? You have the opportunity now to spread your wings, explore new industries.
100%. I just wish we had that team to be able to go to all those events and learn from other industries. That luxury is not on our side just yet. But I keep saying that the industry is maturing. I'm 100% believer in this. If it wasn't the truth, Elantil wouldn't be established, because it's a platform for maturing markets and giving control back to the operators. But from that perspective, it's great to go to the other industries, listen and learn. So as Sarah said, I wouldn't say it better. The educational element, going to these events and taking as much as you can out of it, is brilliant. If you are sending the right people, you have to be very strategic again to send people at the right time. So your product is not suffering for sending people to learn about innovation and so on. But I think it's important to watch the industries. Maybe you don't have to go to the event, but to have an idea, do research, what's happening outside of our own gaming bubble, what's happening on the fintech world. AI, huge topic for 2025 and beyond, 100%. So educational, then from marketing perspective, I think it would be great to have the luxury to go to these sport events. We are definitely not the only industry who enjoys networking. So to be able to speak to someone, I think that some great collaboration and marketing ideas can come out from these events and crossovering the industry. So I think maybe for the future, a great idea to keep in mind and to keep a part of your business strategy as learning curve and research.
Just to stand this word out, I tell you guys, the fintech people, the blockchain people, party harder than the iGaming people. I can tell you that.
I'm out.
John.
Yeah,
John.
done.
Well,
Give it to them.
We talk about these things as cross-industry and cross-vertical, but at the heart of it, I'm not so sure there's that big a difference. And what I mean by that is the one thing that we're all competing for today is attention and focus. That's the one thing that people only have a finite amount of. And, you know, you've got your Netflixes, your TikToks, people doom scrolling on Twitter, who've got thousands and thousands of scientists whose job it is to get people's attention and keep it. So as an industry, we've got to compete with that to get attention, but also we've got to work with those other industries to go where the attention is. And, you know, if you think of how people are changing, so if you look at younger demographics in sports betting and iGaming, the idea of winning money is less of a driver for playing iGaming or sports betting than competing with their friends, or even better, competing with their enemies, right? They want that social, I've done better at this than you. And a lot of that is driven by social media companies. So, you know, you see new sports emerging like this. I don't know if you came across it tonight. There's a sport, power slapping, where people slap each other across the face, and that became a TikTok sensation, and now people betting on it. So, you know, you've got to go to where the attention is, and if you can, synchronize the proposition that we offer with those other industries. And, you know, if they've got thousands of scientists working out how to keep attention, let's work out how we can make use of that.
All right. So I saw pillow fighting championship as well.
Now, I'd be up for that one.
Yeah, actually, Stephen Crystal.
Yes.
Yeah. Yoni, what's your take on this?
I think it's brilliant. I'll give a quick story of something that happened to me probably around 12 years ago. I attended my first Affiliate World Summit. All of my conferences to date had only ever been, you know, ICE. I'm trying to think what else was back then, but ICE, IGB, all the normal gaming conferences. Never really dabbled in Affiliate World Summit. It was based in Vegas. It was foreign territory to us. America was closed. But I went to Vegas. On the plane on the way to Vegas, started speaking to someone who turned out to be an affiliate I believe it was medicines or something not related at all, but an affiliate. We get to Vegas. The next morning, I arranged to meet him. He's already built a website for gaming. It was, here you go, I'm buying PPC. and he turned out to be one of our biggest affiliates. And today, he's one of the biggest affiliates in the industry for iGaming. I am all for cross-pollination of different industries because we are all relatively similar in terms of what we are trying to do. What John said is correct. We are trying to gauge the attention or to entertain the end user for a period of time or as long as that can possibly be. And I think there is so much that we can all learn from each other, whether it be the casual gamers that are coming and telling us what type of game content that they like, whether it be from the payment guys that are saying that what's working in different markets, even the regulation where obviously the iGaming space has massively taken leaps and bounds to become more regulated. Other industries can kind of look at us and come to us and go to some of the topics that are being spoken about and learn about regulation. So I think it's fantastic because I think there is so much that we can all learn from each other in terms of ideas, innovation, regulation, how to make things more entertaining for our customers because, you know, we don't know it all. And, you know, we spend a lot of money and we have a lot of old heads that are running a lot of these ships that we know what we know. And, you know, I don't know TikTok. I don't know social media. I don't know AI. It is what it is. Will I ever know? Maybe, but still won't be anywhere near as much as a young 23, 24, 25-year-old coming out of college or university. And as annoying as they may be, that is the future. And I think that if we are open to listen to their ideas and if we are open to share our ideas with others, then that will only encourage more growth, more innovation, more transparency. And I think that is kind of the direction that we need to go in when we're looking at other industries and other verticals. Let's welcome them in, let's sit with them, let's try and see what they're doing that's good, what tools they're using for anti-fraud, for fraud, money laundering, churn, all these types of things. We didn't invent the wheel, and there's lots to be gathered, lots of information to be gathered from other verticals. So I'm all for it.
All right. So also going to share a small story about when we first had fintech experts at our conference. The suggestion came from one of the iGaming people that we should do a secret conference about money laundering, how to do it correctly. So I was like, man, you guys have so many crazy ideas. So, all right. So for my next question, I'm going to take note of the answer.
Did you do the
No, we did not do it.
Okay, good.
Good, yeah. All right. Yeah. So for my next question, and I'm going to take note of the answers because it's about smaller, more niche iGaming event organizers. Gian, I'm going to start with you again. So how can smaller, more niche iGaming events carve out a successful space along the larger, of course, established conferences?
Well, I think it has to do a lot with what Sarah said. Like in the small events, you can find the person who needs to sign the contract. And at the bigger events, I think that the attention span is really, really tiny. So what you can create, and it's good for you as well, is brand awareness. It's like getting people to know you, getting everyone to know that you exist, to then go to these smaller events and just find the right people that you need to make businesses with. I'm not saying that in the bigger ones you cannot, because of course, you meet the people there. But I think that that's kind of like the key differences. And I think that niche events help you get more prepared, help businesses send their best players. I mean, the best employees to kind of like the relevant person that needs to be there, because you know what they are going to be talking about. For example, if it is for regulation, you send the legal department. If it is for networking, you send the sales department or the business account managers and so on. So I think that's the benefit of the smaller events. I think they are quite as important as the bigger ones. All right,
Sarah.
So going back to what Yoni was saying, and I didn't see Yoni at all last week, which is quite unusual for us at an event. I only saw Tereza in passing. The one thing that does happen with the bigger events is, and I felt it most at Lisbon because it was probably the next big event after ICE, is it does lose its community feel. So because they are so big, and usually I would be able to probably bump into so many different people and have the quick hello and how are you, and and oh yes, I know who you need to speak to because I've just had this meeting with this person. It didn't have that. It was a lot cooler, and it just didn't have that same community. So then when you do have the big parties, that's not bringing community together. That's just a fun time. That's let's kick our heels and all the rest of it. So I think the smaller events really does lend itself to. I mean, Zoltan, I'm still reeling the fact that we're not on your Legends panel at your event, but we'll tackle that one after this call. But those smaller events like your events, it just has that community feel that I just feel like the big events, and we need that, like the guys were saying, you need that, the contact, you need the networking opportunities, and just like John was saying before, you need to send the right people. The right people are key, and also there is too much emphasis, I think, now I've got myself on a bandwagon. There's too much emphasis as well on conferences trying to track the C-level. And then all that does is it becomes, well, if such and such has got this person, well, why have we not got that person? And then it just becomes the same thing that happens at events with stand builders and stand organizers is, well, they've got a big stand, right? Next year, we've got to have an even bigger stand, and it just becomes a lot of peacock. And they're not really thinking about, well, actually, that person is not making those decisions. It's your CPO that's making that decision. And actually, he's being presented to by his marketing and his product and exec teams. So it's getting the right people and not being too focused on getting the CEOs of whatever business, because those smaller events, I think, just lend itself to a much better way potentially of valuable conversations.
To give out of the house, we ditched the idea of having C-levels on panels about 2 years ago, because, like you said, sometimes it's not the person that has to be there, and we're fighting to get that CEO on that panel. So, Tereza, what's your advice for us?
Love that idea, Zoltan. And I think Sarah is already enjoying public speaking a lot, trying to get to another panel. Well done. Love it.
I've obviously had to turn it down, Zoltan, of course.
No, I love it. I am a huge fan of smaller events because I believe you can do much better connections. As Sarah mentioned, community is number one, which really brings together the people that should be together. Again, just you have to be very smart in your decision making, which events to attend. And content. I said it already before. I believe that now is the right time to really speak content, but in another level, not just the fluff around, but really get into the actual issues. Let's start talking what are the problems, the elephants in the room. Like there is maybe lack of technology. That's one thing people don't want to talk about because there haven't been solutions. But we've seen a lot of shift in the industry as well, looking into these problems and trying to come up with solutions. So it's good. I think that's the right time to bring the right content and talk a little bit more about the real stuff and something which might not be as beautiful, but something which many people experience. The lack of support from, again, the technology. That's why Elantil is here as well, but not to self-promote too much. I think the content is really, really big. And I was thinking about this question a lot. I still think, and I said it already at another panel, I think bringing regulators together and trying to make them talk to each other, understand what they have been up to, listen to the operators, listen to the suppliers, think about the players, because I think that's a lot of lacking. If you manage to convince and commit all these regulators to come to one platform event live, meet people, I think you have great USP to bring a lot of important people to your event. And so I think that's something unique, and that's what's missing a lot.
It's not missing, by the way. We have it at our Mare Balticum in the Baltics, where we have a panel with the regulators, which is followed by a panel with the operators. And basically, there's just like a big forum between them, talking to each other from the audience, which created magic. In the past 7 years, the regulators are now friends, and they started going to visit their families and stuff like that. So yeah, this type of things happens, but it's not happening all around the world. We did not have this type of success in Central, Eastern, Eastern Europe or anywhere else. It's just something typical for the Baltic region.
But this is the exact example that it works, right? And I'm so glad that you guys did it and continue doing it.
Yeah, hopefully somehow replicate it.
Yeah, exactly. Like just let's bring UK, Denmark, Sweden, and someone from US together, and Germany, and just let's listen to each other and help each other, and really make the industry comfortable enough for players to come and play on the regulated markets and not look for black market solutions.
All right. Thank you for this advice. John?
Yeah, I think the way I think of it is when you go to the big ones like ISO, SBC, you almost see, like, if I think of it like movies, you see trailers for things. You might see a 30-minute or an hour round table on Central European regulations. But then if you go to a show in Central Europe, you actually see the full movie, right? And you get a much deeper understanding. And as Tereza just said, you can hopefully people can engage together and make it far more interactive than just sat watching a panel. And also, I find that some of those smaller shows, because there's more time, then panels can be more interesting. Some of the bigger events, it can feel a bit like some panels are put together just because someone sponsored something or paid, rather than getting to the heart of an actual issue. So sometimes they can be a bit flat, whereas I think some of the smaller is genuine. If you can get genuine debate and collaboration, then it's a really worthwhile use of time.
All right. Yoni, what's your take on this? You're a big fan of huge conferences, I know.
No. I enjoyed the last two, and I enjoyed the hustle and bustle. But for me, the smaller conferences need to differentiate themselves away from the bigger conferences. You're never going to be a nice, and these smaller conferences, I don't believe they need the pull of the CEO. I don't, because I think what Sarah and Teresa said is very, very true. You want the smaller conferences to be the ones where you can actually do real work and you can actually see stuff and you can actually have time to speak with people and not just 15 minutes or 10 minutes in a hallway while everyone else is stopping you and whatever. So they need to be more intimate. I think you need to have the right people there, which for me isn't the C-level people going to these shows, because A, the C-level people probably don't have the time to go to all these shows, and there are a lot of them. And B, they're not really the decision makers. They need the advice from their head of product or their head of data or their head of or commercial manager, whoever it may be. And I think the smaller shows would be more beneficial for those type of people, so kind of one level below, because those type of people will engage with each other, will generate good content for the organizer. The panels at the ICEs and SBCs, I just don't see the point in them. They are, if you want to be on them, it means taking out an hour and a half of your day, and maybe even a bit more if you want to fully prep. Whenever I walk past them, they seem really, really loud, and I'm not quite sure how much you can take in. And then you've also got, if you want to go listen to them, but you also need to separate your day because you have meetings and getting there and finding the right topic. Well, I think that the smaller shows and shows like that you put on, I think the content that you can generate could be much more effective, much more kind of boutique or tailored to a specific message. Like what John said, sometimes they feel like they're putting on these panels just because someone's sponsoring something. Where I feel like with the smaller shows that I've been to, it's not that. Some of these panels can actually be quite interesting because it's not 95 people listening to 6 people on a panel. It really is in a room where you can hear everything, where you can take notes, where if you have questions, you can get them asked to the panel rather than wait with your hand up and you only got 10 minutes or 15 minutes of questions and then it's gone. So I think that with the ICs and SBCs, you lack the interaction between the panel and the audience, where the smaller ones, I feel that you do have that, and I've done a few of the smaller ones and it's much more engaging. And I think getting the right people. You don't need to shoot for the C-level who we are perceived as decision makers. Get the great product people, get the great developers, get the good regulators who have a good personality. If you get the right people, then I believe you have the right people that will come, and you don't need to think big. It's not about, okay, last year I had 1,500 people, this year I need 3,000. I don't think it needs to work like that. And then the last point that I had here is the actual networking events. I feel that as an industry, and if I think back to the Amsterdam conventions where, after the show, Sarah, I know that you were there for sure, but when we had the show in the Krasnopolski, we would literally fold down our stands and all go to the Europub outside, and we spend 3 hours in the Europub. You had that feeling of togetherness. And I think that someone like you, Zoltan, and your kind of your company has the ability to get that going again, keeping the people together, not having a vast array of different events. This one had wine tasting, this one had whiskey, this one had come meet Luis Figo. It's endless, which is fine, but I don't know how effective it is. Well, I feel that if you have the right people that will still get excited about going to these events, and some of us on this panel have been doing this for a long time, and we're not so excited by going for another night out and do I have to stay out till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, like that? We don't have that in us anymore, but the young blood, they do. So let's move them away from going to see DJ Tiesto, whoever they want to go and see, and just stand there with their phone like idiots. Let's get them to a Europub at one of your events and actually start engaging, buying everyone a few beers, and let's remember where we came from and not where we are at the moment. That would be my advice.
We do host this type of networking sessions at our conferences, like smaller 100, maybe 200 people, a jazz night. Which is followed by the karaoke. So basically we can just move around. Maybe 100 people is much more easier to move around for networking than thousands, and you get this feeling that people actually like hug each other and can talk to each other.
But not only that, after the evening you remember who you spoke to. How many times now in the last few network events you go to, and who do you remember that you actually met or you actually discussed business? Well, I remember that
I'm pretty sure I don't remember many people after the Euro pub, if I'm going to tell the truth.
No,
Right.
for different reasons. For different reasons.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yes. But you did speak to them, and I know you spoke to them, so I remember some of the stuff that you said to them. And probably best you don't remember. But that level of kind of personalization has gone. And like I said, don't target the C-level, target the people that are still younger, hungrier, I would say, maybe not hungrier, but younger for sure, and put them in a pub and let them have a beer.
Yeah.
All right. So my next question is kind of like an awkward question, because I need the answer to this, and I just need a yes and no from you guys, because there's like Cinderella stories like SBC, because they started out also smaller event and grew to this big scale. We had many clients, participants, our conferences telling us that, hey, we were there in the first days of SBC. We were helping them get more clients. We can do the same with you guys, maybe get you to be the next one. So my question, because I'm always turning these people down, because we have a limit, we reach that limit, we don't want to go over it, because otherwise we saw that we lose quality. So should small event organizers aim to become the next large organizer, or just keep their niche? Yes or no? Sarah?
Yes, you should keep your niche for 100%. And look, I think this discussion should be a celebration of all the event organizers, small, large. They do a remarkable job. All the marketing teams that are behind it. I think there's not enough. I think I put this on LinkedIn before. I don't think there's enough recognition for the people like Tereza, John, particularly, because I know we've worked with you on stands and sponsorships. It's so much work that goes into it, and this should definitely be a well done to everybody for all the effort they put in for these events. However, yes, stick to your lane, because it becomes a point where you lose focus on why you did this in the first place, and also it does become impossible to compete. And actually, it's really unfair on the rest of the industry, because there are already so many events to choose from. When you start doing like for like, there's a lot of pressure for us to get the right to attend and support the right event, and I think it becomes quite unfair to everybody. When dates start clashing, or they're within a couple of days of each other, it doesn't do the industry any good. It's just irritating. And I think if you've got your lane, you know what you want, you've got your strategy, you stick to it, and don't of course adapt it, but don't try and compete.
All right, Tereza?
100% yes, stick to your niche. And I think that this panel is a proof. This panel is a proof and testament to the fact that there is space for all these kind of events. There is space for the big ones. There is need for the smaller ones. So I think if we just continue doing what we are doing in the right direction, I think that people come to this industry starting an event with an idea already. And I love what's your vision. I love what you have achieved since the first days we started talking 9 years ago. I love that you are having the quality, the vision, and you are keeping your mission to fulfill that vision. So I would definitely say stick to that. And as Sarah mentioned, the event organizers should keep their customers, which are the exhibitors, in mind, just to try to make it a little bit easier for them, not to overwhelm them with so many events. One thing I would actually say to Clarion and Sigma: don't do events from Monday. It's crazy. You are losing 2 days from your work weekend. You are using your weekends. The employer has to cover your weekend. So those are huge expenses the event organizers are actually not considering. So just to keep in mind your end customers who are the stand builders and mostly games B2B suppliers, or any B2B supplier in the gaming industry, I mean. So yeah, there is space for everyone, and I think you should definitely stick to what you are doing, because you are doing it great.
All right, thank you, Tereza. Now we were going to break the rule and ask Giancarlo, because this was his first event. It was the big event he got into. He did not saw any of the smaller events. So what's your take?
No, I have.
Yeah.
Pardon me if I made you confused. No. I said that I started at ICE, but not this one.
Okay.
2023. I mean,
okay.
40 years. Yeah. I think that definitely yes. Like I said, companies plan ahead which events are they going to be attending, and definitely it's very much easier to see what's the vertical, what's the niche, of your event or the smaller events, and they send the right people to those ones. So it's very helpful for us as well. So of course, definitely we need the smaller events as well.
All right, thank you so much. That's 3 already. So, John.
Well, one thing I've heard on this call is that as these other events get bigger and bigger, the community feel of it gets smaller and smaller. So your events, that's where the community is at these days. So from a selfish perspective of, yes, we want community-based events, keep it small, keep it unique, because if you grow bigger, you're going to lose that community.
Yeah, but there's a need for a bigger community and bigger.
Yeah, and listen, I think it's not just about making that one event bigger and bigger. It's keeping that quality great. If you can grow it and keep the quality, fantastic. It's very difficult to do. But I guess that quality event gives you freedom to then bring that quality to other things, other events or other mediums. So, of course, as a business, you want to grow, right? Absolutely. So, don't feel limited by what people are saying on this panel. It's the challenge is how can you grow and keep the community and magical qualities of what you have when you're small? How can you keep the essence of that as you get bigger?
All right, thank you so much.
I don't have the answer to that.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to say go against the panel. No, fuck it, go big. No, I'm all for. First of all, there are far too many of these shows a year for us to keep up with and choose which ones are good. I don't get me wrong, enjoy ICE, love the SBC, I love the hustle and bustle, but I really do enjoy the smaller ones, the niche ones. Even the last one in Miami. No, it was actually Sigma. It wasn't the best in terms of organization, but it was smaller. I prefer that. I prefer sending to my guys, and when they come back to home base and they tell me how it was, I feel like their pieces of paper are much larger rather than when they go to ICE, where it's just meeting the same people. I feel like they get more done. They have more time and less pressure to actually sit down and engage with someone, which for me isn't just closing deals. It's actually knowing the name of the children of the person he met with and where he lives and what his education was and what his favorite team was, his or hers or whatever it may be. And that's why I value events like yours much more than I value probably an ICE or an SBC. Don't get me wrong, we will always be there. We have to be there, and it's fun and exciting. But the actual foundations for Wiztech or for the company that I've built has been laid by these type of connections that we've made at these events. And it could even be from ICE when it was small, when it was in a dining hall in, it was called IGB when it wasn't a dining hall in the Graz-Pazakowski hotel or these type of events. That's how I know everyone. And that's how I know Sarah and the name of her mum and the name of her dad and her husband. And I can, reel them off, the people that we know that we've built bonds with. It's from your type of shows and not from ICE's. And I've still got those friendships now. And for me, that is something that I hold very dear to my heart, that, I do have those relationships in iGaming. And like I say, it's because of your type of shows that are going on now that have kind of getting, I would say swallowed, but, not as mainstream as the ICEs and SBC. So keep what you're doing. We definitely appreciate it. Just like we do appreciate the work that Clarion and Rasmus and Iman do for the other shows. But you are as equally as important in our eyes. So I'm speaking maybe just on my behalf, but you are equally as important for the industry as the others. So please carry on, and we will be happy to be a supporter in the years going forward.
Thank you so much. It's reassuring, and I'm glad that we need to skip the brainstorming of adding more sponsorship packages to Prague. So because we were like, man, we sold out everything, and there's 2 months, and people are still asking. We need to come up with new sponsorship packages, but I guess we won't, because that would kill the whole vibe of it. So guys, let's also talk about virtual and hybrid setups, because they are still around, even though the pandemic ended. So digital transformation, of course, is impacting every industry. And of course, the the events industry is also impacted by these changes. So how do you see the role of virtual hybrid events evolving in the iGaming sector this year, or is it dead?
I think I don't even think it's an either or. I think they can run in parallel. The good thing about virtual conferences for me is, and again, let's go back to when this all started in 2020, really. What I loved about it were companies were lifting paywalls, so people had access to content that they never would have had before because they knew that it was really important for people to feel connected at a time when they weren't. Webinars like this give people access to content that people that don't have the luxury or the possibility to attend events and get to meet people face to face and get to hear, people's stories or share of information. Webinars are so much more accessible to the industry as a whole, and if we're looking to bring new talent in and up, then I think that's really important because, like we were saying before, they don't necessarily get those opportunities. It's unlikely, given a budget, you're going to have the £1,000 ticket. You're going to send probably your C-level versus somebody that's a head of or an executive. So I think it's really important to have a hybrid of both. You've got this, but then also you've got your conference content offline. I think what is really important is to try and keep finding new speakers. I think that's the thing, and not too much preparation for panels either. I think it's really important to have, good conversations where people maybe conflict a little and have a real discussion. I think that's important. I think there's a bit too much over preparation on the offline side, and I get that because it's nerves and it's just maybe people not wanting to slip up or anything, which I completely get. Hence why I don't do this. But also, I think going back to that, I think it's a hybrid. There's no right or wrong there. I think there's a value in both. It's just keeping that content fresh and of value.
All right, thank you so much, Tereza. Do you think that iGaming event organizers, media companies are actually taking advantage of this opportunity to drive some virtual and hybrid content towards their brand?
I would say maybe using opportunity in the right way, but I love this. I love these panels. I love jumping on a call. You don't have to fly anywhere. You can discuss topic which is very close to all of us. So I think this should continue, and it's great that it started in 2020. But the real life events and the element of the humanity in it and networking, I think that's irreplaceable. Sarah and myself, we had a call around in 2020 talking about events, if we think that it will come back or not. And we both agree that the networking element and getting to know people face to face, it's just irreplaceable. You need it. You need it to remember the people, even getting the business cards. It's something which automatically, evokes the touch. It's something irreplaceable. So these events will continue, but I think that the virtual events should continue as well. It's a great platform to discuss topics without huge spend, huge organization ahead. What I'm missing maybe from the live events, it used to be hybrid, that you would be able to tune in from home. It's not the case. I understand that there is probably a cost involved because it's not easy to stream. No?
It's not about that. It's not about that.
Then maybe personnel, maybe people behind the cameras and so on, because I miss it. Sometimes I couldn't go even in Malta. I couldn't go to next, and I wanted to see a particular panel, but I wasn't able to tune in, I believe, last year or this year. I think that we should keep in mind both live for sure, and for sure keeping the virtual side, because it just makes life easier.
All right, thank you. To complement this hybrid thing, smaller organizers used to provide this hybrid opportunity for attendees. Large conferences did not do it. They started doing it, but then they stopped, because you see the fall in ticket sales, because it's much more comfortable to stay in your pajamas at home and just have a look at the panel discussion, and that's it. You miss out on the networking. So
it is about money after all.
Not just necessarily. It's also about networking, because you do miss out on the networking part. So, and we encourage the networking part of the conference. It's not just like the content. And we do have a recording of every session at our conferences, which we provide afterwards for free. So if somebody's interested in what the regulator said, they can watch it, and it's also free, but not as a live stream.
Okay.
So, John, what's your take on the hybrid virtual thing?
Yeah, I think it's not one or the other. It's how they can complement each other. For some do it really well, like for example, this forum is great, and it's a touch point where your community can stay engaged throughout the year and get value throughout the year. I think there's some other events, they just do one big thing a year, and then you don't hear from them again until, months down the line, and it's about that one event again, which I think is a missed opportunity, right? Because as event organisers, you've got a lot of data on your community, and it's good to keep that conversation going. And actually, it can help shape the event. It can help shape what you're going to do. What topics have people been interested throughout the year that they would then want more in depth on at the actual event? So, yeah, as event organisers, absolutely, I think they should be capitalising on keeping that community going throughout the year. And as companies interested in events, I really appreciate being able to watch something or join some collaborative thing to learn from other people in the industry, and that's really, really valuable. It also makes it more accessible. We've talked about some events, see people go or heads of, whereas a more virtual event, it removes the barrier for people in a company to go and learn things. And I think that's really important for the industry, especially, some of these young 20-year-old people fresh from college, brimming with ideas. It's great for them to learn from people that have been in the industry for a long time.
All right, thank you so much. But Tereza, I just want to mention that all other industries have ditched this hybrid model as well. So we saw that in the banking, in the blockchain, AI conferences, everybody ditched the hybrid eventing, probably because of the attendance and the networking.
And networking, no, it makes a lot of sense, of course. But if there is content available afterwards, then fantastic. You can catch up afterwards. You don't have to watch it live.
So, Yoni, I know you're a huge fan of these virtual events.
Whenever I hear the word hybrid, it makes me think of whenever you get a new employee says, can I work from home? So I'm always against that. I know it's not the case, but it's kind of the stigma I have in my head. I think it's really good, really important. I've used it a lot in the past. As long as the content can be distributed well after. What do I mean? Well, easy access and not so time consuming. So if I want to go and see a panel that you did between a regulator and an operator, I want to be able to say, right, I want to see just this 15-minute clip, 20-minute clip, because I don't want to waste my time scrolling through everything and trying to find it. So, and there are some people that do it really, really well. There's some people that are able to distribute it and advertise it really, really well, because sometimes you won't go to a show, you might even forget, but you might need yourself to put a post on LinkedIn, say this was a great topic that you might be interested in, or stuff like that. So yes, a big fan. Needs to be distributed correctly. The content needs to be good, clean, professionally done, just to make it more comfortable, to make it more professional feeling, because I don't think it'd be too effective if you have something that has bad audio or bad visuals. You're likely that you're not going to do it again. So if we can still maintain a level of professionalism like you actually have on the floor in real life, in that aspect, then I think it's something that you can definitely learn from and definitely take. And if I see a very good panel on CRM, I can say, guys, go look at this and distribute the channel that way. So yes, big fan.
All right, thank you so much. So besides Sarah and Giancarlo, the three of you were already on our virtual sessions last year and before that. So if you go to the Hipther TV YouTube channel and you search your name, you're probably going to find the archives and the chapters of your speaking sessions. So we did that. We are trying to do some enhancements with iGaming Exchange to have a much more interactive distribution of this. And thank you, Yoni, for pointing this out. This is something that we will take into consideration about these smaller videos. If you 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just to get the time right. Giancarlo, what's your take on this?
Well, sorry, Yoni, but I must say that I work 100% remotely, and I love it. I couldn't do it.
It
any other
happens.
way.
There's always one, isn't there, nowadays? There's always one.
No, besides that, I think that, I mean, with AI and with, like, I've seen events online that you feel like you are there. So you can have the whole organization, things that you would never think of, young people developing it. And I think that it's to each their own. If you want to create an online event, of course you will have an audience. And if you want to create an in-person event, of course you will have an audience. So I think they're same as smaller events and bigger events. They are both valid, and it always works for whatever the company needs to take from. So it's like, yeah, it's like you would send 23 people to ICE, but you would send 2 representatives to an online event, or 5, or yeah. I think they're both equally valid.
All right, thank you so much. In 2020, I know when we launched Gaming Americas, we hosted the first virtual conference for 3 days. We had 10 hours of content each. We had 200 speakers on that conference. And people were still hanging around for 3 days, just like going to sleep, coming back to the computer because they could not leave the house. But I remember that at one of the conferences, we topped 20,000 viewers on YouTube on the live stream, which was crazy. We could not replicate that ever. But we don't see those numbers now. So it's definitely, some of the event organizers actually killed their digital conferences, which was how they titled it back then. So my last question, because I know that this is a panel and we do need to stick to a certain time frame. Guys, what are the biggest challenges and opportunities facing the iGaming event organizers in 2025? Sarah. Some advice for Iman, Rasmus, Pierre, Alex Pratt, or probably, I don't know who is in charge of the IGB conference.
Oh God, that is such a big question. Oh, it's horrible. Did you have to start with me on that one? Crikey. Look, they've got a tough gig. You know, there's a lot of expectation on all these shows. People have already committed budgets. You know, they're probably now starting to work on agendas. I'd just say try and keep it fresh. Try and bring in new speakers, new blood. Come in from different verticals. Come in from tech, from blockchain, from pharma, from, you know, other industries where they, like Yoni was alluding to before, you know, there's a lot more innovation going in those sectors that actually, what could we learn from them? And it doesn't have to be about iGaming. It doesn't have to be about CRM and personalization. Let's talk about other things that actually we could learn from a completely different perspective, that we will just take a couple of nuggets of pieces of information. Great. I'd also like to see more marketing content aimed at marketeers as well. And to be honest with you, other than that, I can't really think. Look, there's a lot of crowing and a lot of peacocking on social media. You know, sometimes it becomes a bit of apathy, I think, towards some of the events, because it can be a little bit too much. I think, as I mentioned the other day on LinkedIn, we should have a final cut-off time as to when people have been to an event, going to an event. They actually only have a window, so that then we can all get on with content. And I understand the reason you weren't at ICE, Sultan, because you are working on your own LinkedIn content, which is insanely good, by the way. It's really good. You make me chuckle. You make me laugh every day. So I just say, just think about the people attending. Think about the value giving them in terms of, if it's conference content, what that looks like. And and I think that's all I can say, really.
All right, Tereza, any advice for the organizers?
So first of all, challenge, I see the number of events. And after this talk, maybe also an opportunity. As we said, there is space for everyone. So just for the organizers to keep that in mind, there is a lot of events. Try to make them as comfortable. Again, don't start on Monday, please. I know that it's already too late for 2026, but it is a huge challenge, especially for people having a stand. You really have to travel and lose your weekend before a very busy week. So that would be one. Try to make the venues as comfortable as possible, which we hopefully will see this year anymore either. Even floors, working internet, and so on. That would be great. keep your customers, so the actual people, in mind, and try to make it as smooth as possible. And again, push the communication out that it's going to be tough, especially for people who have probably never been before. Just try to make include that it's going to be tough but fun, and keep people in mind.
All right, thank you, John.
Yeah, well, I think I guess the challenge is staying for an event to stay clear on its purpose, and not trying to be everything. But within that, especially the bigger events, is I guess where they can evolve is because SBC and ICE are both going down this path of different halls for different groupings. How can they create those exhibitions within an exhibition where you bring the content to that exhibition hall and it's very relevant to everyone in that hall, and you foster more networking and collaboration within that hall? And I think that's where they can maybe look to differentiate their event from the competition by doing a better job of that. And that's probably their challenge.
All right, thank you, Yoni.
All right. So for me, I think that with the technology we have today, it must be easier to figure out or to map these areas and know where your next meetings are going to be. I know that this year they had an AI assistant that was actually very good, very cool. I know me and my team used it quite a lot, but I'm sure that can be evolved more. Some kind of AI assistant to help those that are working the floor to get to their meetings on time and to plan their meetings. Another two things that really, really drive me mad is walking and texting. I would love to see a policeman or police force on the hallways stopping people from walking and texting. The amount of people that are bumping into people, it drives me mad. I know you're in a rush. I know you have work to do. Either stand to the side or get to where you're going to and then do your texting. It was seriously, Sarah, it was driving me so mad this time. I felt like the oldest man there. I'm like, stop texting. Excuse me. That drove me mad. And also maintaining that you have an environment where people can actually talk. Again, maybe showing my age, but it's the volume on some of these stands. I felt sorry for the people that had stands next to them because you had people screaming on microphones and music blaring. I think there needs to be a happy medium. Create the right ambience and create the right vibe, but don't have it on the back of not being able to speak to people and not having a comfortable environment that you've paid for a stand. I want you to be able to sit here comfortably for 10, 15 minutes, have a drink, and not think, right, when can I get out of here because it's far too noisy. But in general, like I think Sarah said, they're on a hiding to nothing. They've always got to better themselves. They always need to try and improve. And I feel like they have done. And I really feel like they've listened to the feedback that they get. And they do try and make things better, whether it be with internet, queuing to get in, food, toilet facilities, all the small things that, we maybe take for granted and we only moan about when we get there because, as humans, we like to moan. I feel like they're definitely making great strides in that aspect. And I'm excited to see where they go to from here because, they will continue to improve. And the last thing I'll say, I didn't feel like the affiliate section got much of a fair crack at the whip. Obviously, it was just 2 days. It felt like they were very much crammed into one hall. And if anyone did go in there on the last day, I managed to get in there for a few hours. It was really, really packed and busy. So I think it's important to remember the affiliates because they also are an important part of this industry. Whereas they may not be paying the hundreds of thousands of euros the operators are paying for a stand. They are still the heartbeat of our industry, and without them, we don't really have much. So I would also like them to be looked after a little bit more, if possible. But those are my pet peeves. And sorry if I came across as an old man.
No worries. Thank you so much. You read my mind with the AI thing. I don't know how the AI assistant works, but it would be awesome, like to have this because they have cameras probably all around. To have this application when you need to find someone, it's like just click it. The AI will find him on the floor and tell you where to go.
That's how it should be. Like you can have like a Google Maps, but everyone's working on the same system. It can connect you rather than where are you? Put your hand up. No, turn around, turn left.
Yeah,
You feel like an absolute schmuck. Just where are you?
Yeah, but imagine the compliance side around it, all the data protection and everything involved. It would not be easy to do it.
I don't know. I'll leave that to someone else. I'll just complain.
All right, Giancarlo, as a big stand holder at ICE, doing all the noise.
Yeah, not doing all the noise, but receiving it. I was gonna say, actually, I was gonna start by saying, Yoni, you're very right. By the third day, I lost my voice completely. Like, I couldn't be heard. No, I would say for events organizations, probably you would have heard this in like 1895 in an university, but it's understand your audience, know your audience, know what do they need. There's nothing more rewarding than to get to an event and to see something that you weren't asking for, you weren't expecting, you actually don't know how to develop it, and then things like that map that would help you find the stand that would take you there, that would use maybe Google Maps or some sort of localization or whatever, that would take you there. I would have never thought of that someone can develop that for me. But if I get it, I'm very happy and I will be raving about it. So I think that, yeah, understanding the needs of the audience and making it easier for them, like trying to think ahead of the needs that would arise during the event, it would be very helpful for us.
All right, thank you so much. So as a last question, what is your next conference where you're going to? Sarah?
Can I start?
Yeah, you go.
Okay, my next one would be Sao Paulo in Brazil.
Sao Paulo, okay, yeah. As we see, which is the next best conference ever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mine is next New York, and we are helping to run the marketing track day on the Thursday, which last year was standing room only, just putting it out there. So next New York.
All right. Tereza?
So for Elantil, we have Nadia and Jonathan, the CEO, traveling to Next in New York and speaking at two different summits, Social Casino and the Action Summit. And for myself, we will have a presence. We will have our first small stand at the Next conference in Valletta.
All right, nice. John?
Yeah, I think the next conference we'll be going to from Fincore will be probably Next in New York. Probably to have a look over there and see what that's all about.
So the next is Next, okay. Yoni?
I've got no idea. I'm off to Mexico tomorrow for 2 weeks for work. I don't know. I have to check my diary. It wasn't on your list that you gave us a list of questions. I'll just say Next, but I don't know.
All right, this one wasn't on the list because I just came up with this because I remember that there are so many conferences. You need to like pick one and let me know where you're going next.
I've got no idea, but I'll check.
Our audience will look you up at the next conference, which for some is Next in New York. So guys, thank you so much for your time. This has been awesome. It's a great way to start the year. So people now know what to expect on the event side, know what has already been behind us, because this January has been the longest month ever. It feels like a full year now and still not over. So guys, have a lovely day ahead. The recording will be available in a couple of minutes. Once we have chopped it up, we will have the special moments to share with you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great time. And thank you for our audience for sticking around. And of course, a big round of digital applause for our speakers. Thank you.
Thank you very
so much.
Really enjoyed it.
Bye.
Nice to meet you, everyone. Bye.